Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Introvert Dating Success Show, courtesy of introvertdatingsuccess.com. I'm your host, Coach Harry Wilmington, and this is the show, and that is the website where you can go to learn how to attract women as your authentic introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. And on today's show, we're going to be answering a question from a guy who is currently going out with this girl who originally said that she didn't want to be in a relationship. She's not trying to look to date anybody really heavily. But they've been going at it for a year, and he's wanting to know if it's worth his time pursuing somebody who is quote unquote emotionally unavailable and saying that they're not trying to get into a relationship. And so we're going to answer his question. As always, for more of these shows, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, also iTunes and YouTube. And if you want to hear shows like these a week before they come out anywhere else, then you can support this show by becoming a patron. Go to patreon.com/introvertdatingsuccess. Once you sign up, you'll have access to these a week before they air anywhere else. So be sure to do that as well. If you have any questions you'd like answered on the show, you can write to me by going to the website, clicking on the contact tab, and sending your message. If you want to support the show, go to the website and click on the tip jar tab. And of course, if you are interested in one-on-one coaching, if you like the stuff you hear here and you want to have me help you with your own dating life, then go to the website and click on the coaching tab. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this guy's question, because I know this is definitely a situation that I myself have been in before, whereby I'm interested in a girl who may not, at least verbally, she's saying that she's not trying to get into anything too serious. And how do you balance that? What do you do when somebody tells you that? Do you continue to pursue them? Do you date other women in the process and hope that you don't hurt her feelings? Do these kind of women ever come around to deciding to become the girlfriend or saying that they want a relationship with you? Let's dive into this guy's message and figure it out. And I'll stop, as we go through to answer, to give my insights on various things that this guy's going through in this message. So it goes like this. He says, how do we know if trying to pursue someone emotionally unavailable is worth it, or at what moment we better stop it? I'm 24 and she's 27. I've been dating someone since the end of January. We both broke up very recently. She broke up with somebody in August, and I broke up with somebody on New Year's. I don't have issues to get over since my breakup was friendly and the relationship was okay. But she has lots of traumas from her relationship, which lasted 8 years. Now, in parentheses, he says, most of the time as friends with benefits, and last year it turned into a serious relationship due to her ex's pressure. So let's figure out what happened here, okay? Basically, this woman was with this guy for 8 years, and during that time, she wasn't trying to make this thing official with a title of any kind, okay? And if we go by 8 years, she's 27 now, so that means this all started when she was 19. So from 19 to 27, we'll say 26. So from 18 to 26, basically, she was with this other guy, whereby she was seeing him regularly, but she wasn't ready for a title yet, and it wasn't until he pressured her into it that she decided to put a title on the situation, okay? Now, in my opinion, this doesn't really bode well for the guy that she was in the previous relationship with, because since he pressured her into it, it was a situation where even though she agreed to it, she probably wasn't really all that much ready to actually put a title to it. And the question you may ask yourself is, why wasn't she trying to put a title to this situation? Well, there could be a few reasons. For one, if a woman is not at the place in her life where she is able to feel like she's completely where she needs to be in terms of her career goals, her finances, whatever, then she could just be wanting to have some fun, some fun. But in the process of that, she may also not want to be having fun with a whole bunch of other guys. So if she has one steady guy in there she's consistently being able to have that kind of fun with, and he's cool with it, and she's cool with it, then that might be a route that they decide to go. Now, this guy made the mistake of pressuring her into something. So even though he says that there was a breakup, he doesn't say who did the breaking up. I'm guessing that she probably was the one that broke it off because, again, she felt pressure to get into the situation. But we don't know. I don't want to speculate on that. But the point is, she's not with a guy, and now she's with this guy. And so he's expressing that she had a lot of trauma. He doesn't say here specifically what that trauma was, so we can only speculate about what that could be. I don't like to be a guy that speculates stuff, so we're going to assume that whatever the trauma was, it was enough for her to agree to get out of this relationship, regardless of who started it or whatnot, okay? But I've dated women before that have told me the whole trauma story, whereby they'll say like, oh yeah, I had a bunch of trauma, or all these previous guys treated me bad. And, if you're a recovering nice guy or a nice guy introvert that understands that it's not cool to cause a woman pain and wants to be the guy that comes in and able to show her differently, I got news for you, guy. You don't know the other half of that story, because I remember I dated this girl one time that would be like, oh yeah, these guys, they were all bad for me and blah, 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 and they used to treat me bad. And then she told me one time a story about this guy that like beat her. There was another guy that cheated on her. And again, these are very, very bad things. But then you start thinking like, how is she consistently choosing guys that are doing these horrible things to her, and yet she stays with them? And then when I was in the dating relationship with her, whatever, over time, she started to become a little bit obsessive. She started to be very, very needy. She was calling me all the time, wanting to know where I was, who I was with, if I was cheating with her. And this was like by date 3. Like we weren't even like in the month-long phase or 2-month-long phase of dating. We were just like on the 3rd date. And she was already spelling out like, well, what are you doing when I'm not around? And, you better not be seeing other girls or talking to friends of yours that are girls. And it was all because of this trauma of her past. So while I felt bad for her that she dealt with trauma, going out with a woman and trying to be in a serious relationship with a woman that's been through a serious kind of trauma is usually not in your best interest. It is a waste of time, because ultimately what happens is they have a lot of baggage, and that baggage is going to transfer over to you. Because if she had a lot of bad stuff happen in her past, any kind of movement you do that looks even the slightest bit off, she's going to blow up to a huge extreme and assume that you're trying to do her wrong also. So she ends up self-sabotaging a budding relationship based on previous trauma that you had nothing to do with. So I'm always very, very weary when women start saying things like, I have trauma, I was cheated on, I was beat, I was abused. Because again, I can feel bad for them, but I also know that that's going to affect me in terms of our budding relationship, and I just rather not deal with it. But anyway, continuing on. Let's see. We both didn't plan on dating at the moment. We wanted to enjoy life all by ourselves. We didn't want to get involved with anyone until we met, hit it off immediately, and started dating. I know we are exclusive at the moment because, as I said, we didn't want to meet anyone new after breaking up. Okay, never assume that. Until you've specifically had a conversation with a girl that either says, hey, are we exclusive? Or she brings to you the whole thing of like, hey, what are we? Are we going out? Are we boyfriend and girlfriend? Never assume. And I say this because I want to actually help you in your psyche. Because what a lot of guys do is they'll go on a couple of good dates with a girl and then automatically think that, yep, she's already figured it out. She knows I'm the one and it's a wrap. And then if he gets any kind of notice that, oh, she's still seeing other people, or maybe he heard some rumblings or whatever, they get all blown out of proportion, out of shape with their emotions. Like, oh my God, I thought we were seeing each other and this and that. And it's been like 2 or 3 dates. And what I like to press to you guys on this show time and time again is that at minimum, you need to be seeing a woman consistently for 3 months and not expecting anything to be serious in terms of like being in a full-on relationship. You're going on dates, you're having a good time. The dating phase is really the research phase of the relationship game, whereby you're trying to figure out if you want to be with this other person. And so just like you have a right to do that and see other people during this time, she also has that right. So if she decides to exercise that right, you cannot get mad at her because no conversations were had about actually being serious. So you can't in your mind be like, well, because I assume we're serious, she must assume that too. You're projecting. Do not project that thought onto a woman. Until there is a conversation that's actually had, just make the assumption that she's seeing other people. That way you'll be less butthurt about it, okay? You want to think about like, is she seeing anybody else? Because if you don't even have that in your head that's a thing that's bad to do during this time, then it should not bug you if she is in fact doing that. Continuing on, let's see. Okay, so we said we meet once a week and sometimes twice a week because we work a lot, so we don't have much free time for dates and our schedules don't always match. But we've been seeing each other every weekend since the day we met. Okay, let me explain something to you guys. This right here, the amount of dates that they're going on, where he says we can only see each other once or twice a week, he's thinking that this is not a lot of time together. And yet, that is actually the perfect amount of time to see a woman that you're just starting to date, okay? And this is where I think a lot of guys mess up is they're taught by the media and by songs and by, bad advice people and stuff like that, that if you're like a girl, you're supposed to see her every day. She should be seeing you all the time. You need to be in front of her face nonstop. You need to be texting her all the time, calling all the time, and you need to be trying to set up dates that are like a day apart from each other. And That's how you end up with relationship burnout, where you see your girl for 2 or 3 weeks, you see her out of 21 days, you see her like 18 days in a row, and then all of a sudden she stops answering your phone calls, and she stops texting you, or she stops wanting to see you, and she gets too busy to see you all of a sudden. Then it's not you, it's me, and we should just be friends, and this is too much. And that's a bad thing. So because this guy works and because she works, they legit have other things to do with their lives besides see each other. And that is a very good thing, because most women would rather date a guy that has other things to do and is not constantly hitting her up for attention and actually chasing after his purpose to, follow his goals and dreams and make some money and do exciting things that he can come back to her and tell her about. But to be under her all the time is actually a bad thing. So he's actually doing everything right now, even though he's thinking I should be seeing her more. He's actually 2 times a week in the beginning when you're dating somebody is actually a lot of time. So he's already doing a good job at pacing this out just by way of life getting in the way. And life should be getting in the way, because they should both be being able to pay attention to things outside of just them dating. And it's probably a lot less pressure for her too, which is what she probably likes, because the last guy that pressured her into a relationship was probably trying to be around her all the time, and it drove her crazy. I'm assuming. We don't want to make assumptions, but that's what I'm just projecting out to you guys. Let's see, continuing on. She made it clear that she isn't ready for a relationship because she is trying to heal from her relationship and doesn't want to fall in love again. And then in parentheses, he says, here I disagree with her, since we don't have this kind of control over our feelings. We don't choose to fall in love with someone. It just happens. Okay, so I want to address that first, because that's another lie. The reality is that we actually do have control over who we fall in love with, because love actually is a choice. And it wasn't up until the early 19th century, early 20th century in the 1900s, when this idea of falling in love, getting married to somebody by falling in love with them with this kind of emotional feeling actually came into play. Prior to, love was all about kingdoms trying to mesh with other kingdoms, so they'd marry the son and the daughter together so the 2 kingdoms would come together. It was about dowries. It was about almost anything else but what we now consider to be the feeling of love. But the feeling of love cannot sustain a relationship, because there's going to be days legitimately whereby the other person's getting on your nerves and you darn near hate them, or you're extra busy and you just don't have the day that day to feel those lovey-dovey thoughts or show them the lovey-dovey care that you would normally show them. And so in those moments, you have to make a choice to say, I'm really mad at this person, but you know what? I'm going to choose to love them and stay with them regardless. And if you are constantly in your head thinking that you have to feel a certain way at all times when you're with a woman in order to signal that as love, then you are going to be extremely disappointed, because the time that she pisses you off, you're going to just think, oh, she must not be the one. And that's not it at all. So the whole thing about love just happening, that's also inaccurate, because ultimately, if you're falling in love with people that are bad for you, for example, and you start to recognize these are certain traits that I'm constantly falling for, then what that means is that you're falling for certain characteristics, but not necessarily people. And you can learn to fall out of love with bad characteristics and learn to appreciate better ones, and learn to love yourself better, which results in you being able to identify the kind of people that you should then choose to love. And when I say choose love, I don't mean you got to be oh, I'm not attracted to her, but I'm going to choose to love her. That's not what I mean. I mean, if you're out there in the world and you're meeting women and you see say 5 women, okay, and 3 of them have the kind of personality and characteristics that you want, and they're good with their families or whatever, you can choose which one of those 3 you want to go out with. That's a choice, the choice to go out with somebody. Then from there, you can, as you're dating them, you can choose to continue to want to get to know them. You can choose to deal with their quirks and deal with their family and friends. And you can make choices that are going to do things that'll heighten her attraction, which will then heighten your attraction. So all these things are actually choices, not just you walk in and it's oh, my heart's been shot. I'm in love now. Because you don't know from day one if that's the person you should be loving. You haven't done anything with them. You haven't done research on them. You don't know what their likes and dislikes are. You don't know what their lifestyle is like. So all these things and deciding to get to know all these things are choices, okay? But more importantly, I wanted to get here real quick. Let's see. He says, so when she says she made it clear she's not ready for a relationship. So what she is actually doing is this. In the previous relationship, as he said, the ex basically begged and pleaded and forced her into thinking that she had to make the choice to become the girlfriend when she wasn't necessarily ready to make that choice. And so, because keep in mind it was 8 years, and honestly, if I was the guy in this, if I was advising the guy in the situation, I would have basically said, hey, you ain't got to pressure her, but you got to make your stance know what you want, and if she doesn't agree with that, then just leave. And then if you leave and she decides to come to you, great, but don't overextend yourself and constantly keep asking her, can we be together? Can we be together? Can we be together? Can we be together? Because that is something that's going to make a woman ultimately want to choose to not be with you. But with that said, because she felt forced into it, she's trying to make sure that that's not going to be a thing that happens this time, because the last time, as far as we know, it wasn't to her choosing. I mean, it was to her choosing, but ultimately she felt forced to make that choice when she didn't really want to make that choice. So she's coming to him because chances are the last guy she dated, clearly based on his request, was needy, was bugging her and begging her and pleading her, and she doesn't want that. She wants to be the one to come to him and say, hey, if I'm ready for a relationship, I'll let you know, but until then, can we just have some fun? Now, as I'll get down later in the thing, but he's currently the only one that, as far as we know, that she's doing this stuff with. So when that happens, when you're hearing a woman say, I don't want a relationship right now, but her actions are indicating things that basically make you feel as though you're the only one this is happening with, do you then ruin that? And that really boils down to, if you are in definite need of a title of some kind, and that's something that you just need to feel good about yourself in the situation, then you got to decide what you got to do about that. Because if she doesn't want that, but you do, then that's got to be a conversation that determines if you're going to stay around or not. I find that if I'm single and there's another woman that's single and we're just doing everything great, we're hooking up, we're having a good time, but she doesn't want to add a title to it, to me, that's a benefit. Because it's it's a win-win either way. Think about it. If there's no title, you can see, if she doesn't want a title, then you can see whoever you want outside of her, and she can't get mad about it. I mean, she can, but ultimately it's not her decision to get mad about it. And you still have the option to hook up with her while still looking at other options to see if they might work better for you. So that's a win. Now, if she gets mad about it and is like, well, why are you seeing these other people? Then that leads to the conversation of, well, you said you weren't trying to be serious, and I'm kind of looking for that, so I'm seeing other people. Does that bother you? And then that can actually lead her to having a conversation with you about making a relationship. So you win either way. Either you're going to get to see other girls while seeing her and still hooking up, or you get to get into a relationship with her because she's bugged by it. How do you lose? So you can't let things like this scare you into a situation where it's like you just have to have a title. No, use that to your advantage if you can. Continuing on. Let's see. He says, I'm not ready for a relationship either because I just left one and I'm not sure how my life will be after July when I graduate from college. That's a lie. Clearly, based on him writing this message, he is definitely wanting a relationship, but he's trying to convince himself that he doesn't need one, even though he actually does want one with her by way of the fact that he's questioning this in the first place. I don't know why guys do that. They always lie to themselves about this kind of stuff. It's not worth it. You should just be truthful. If you're saying this girl's hot, she's hooking up with me all the time, we get along great, etc., etc. I want this to be a relationship. If that's how you feel, you have the right to feel that way. That doesn't mean that she has to agree to the relationship, but you have the right to feel that way and not lie about it to try to hopefully stay in it and not feel like you're going to get bugged by it later. Continuing on, I expect to stay in the city, but we never know. Well, okay, whatever. But things are great between us. We are developing a friendship. We have so much fun together. We text all the time and never lack subjects to talk about. We have so much in common, and hooking up and chemistry is a 10 out of 10. Wonderful. As I said, I don't think we have control over our feelings. That's a lie. So I'm just afraid of falling in love for someone who is emotionally unavailable and who probably will not be ready if I catch deep feelings for her. At the moment, I for sure like her and her company besides of this sexual attraction towards her that drives me crazy. But I'm not in love, and I'm trying to keep things casual and at a slow pace. Okay, so this is another thing that I think guys, at least guys of today, are made to feel guilty about. A lot of times, because we're so the agenda to be in a relationship is so pressed upon us that it can, in our minds, feel like a trick when we meet a girl that is legit saying, I don't want a relationship, I just want to hook up. Because that's not what we've been taught. We've been taught women want relationships, and if we don't have one with them, they're going to be mad. And so if we're just hooking up or whatever, we need to be pushing towards a relationship to make her feel good about it. Or if she says that she's not looking for something at the moment, that she's really lying. And all this is not true, because there are some women that legit just want to be like, hey, for right now, the time of life that I'm in, I just want to have fun and hook up. Is that cool? Now, if she changes her mind later, that's great. But in the meantime, you as the guy you shouldn't be focusing on like, oh, am I going to fall slowly in love with her and this and that. You take everything day by day, moment by moment. So today's day, we're going out, we're having a good time, we're hooking up afterwards, we might get some food, and then that was that day. Then you go to the next day. We talked on the phone, we text, we had a good time, was whatever. Then you go by the next day. And so you just look at each moment, you savor each moment that you're in with this person. And if all those moments start to build to something where you both feel a higher connection, then that's great. But even when that happens, you let her bring it up. Because if you're all bat crazy in love and she's like, well, I still just want to kind of whatever, it could start to freak her out that your feelings are so high and intense for her to where she may back away. Versus if you have those feelings, but it's like, okay, I think part of the reason guys do this is because they want some assuredness that she's not going to go away. So he's thinking, okay, I got to tell her that I'm in love so I can hear that I'm in love, that she's in love too, so that way we can stay together. And really, just look for consistency. That's the easiest assurance you can have with a woman. So if you're consistently asking her out, she says yes, and you're consistently texting her, and she's texting back, that's your assurance. You ain't got to add all this extra emotional stuff and this title stuff to it to make it a thing. Again, if that's something that you need, that's a different discussion. But legit, don't let the fear of possibly losing her if you don't express these feelings or if you don't both admit that you're in love deter you from hanging out with her and having a good time. Like this, let that be what it is. If you're the only person she's hanging out and hooking up with and you don't see her having any other prospects and things are good, then you're good for now, you know? If she wants something, she'll bring it up. It's really that simple. So continuing on. Okay, she has a very busy life due to work. She's been working 12 hours, 5 days a week, plus some Saturdays. And she's been attending courses. She also spends time with family and friends. And she is making a lot of effort to see me. She saves at least one day on the weekend to be with me. And if a friend invites her to hang out on the same day, she prioritizes me. These are all very, very good signals. Now, and let me just read a little bit further. When we meet, she says things like, I missed you. This week felt so long for us to finally meet again. Maybe I can come to your place for at least an hour during the week so we don't have to wait the whole week to see each other again. I never felt such a strong attraction towards anyone before you. You are amazing. I feel good by your side. You have the best kiss on the entire planet. We have such an awesome connection. I can't stop thinking about you. I can't wait to be with you again. So, what is she doing? She's prioritizing him. She's etching out days in her week specifically to see him. And she's saying all these great things. And all these things that she's saying, by the way, is her way of basically saying, I love you. And for a woman that's been hurt before, she might not just come out and just say to you in direct language, oh, I really love you, because I don't know how the breakup went. She could fear getting hurt again. She could fear that she says those exact words that you might not feel them back, and then it'll ruin this great hookup you guys have going on. So she won't say, I love you, but she'll say everything else that basically means the same thing. And sometimes with women that have been hurt, you have to take what other signals they will throw at you and interpret those as the thing you want it to be. So all this stuff, I missed you, it felt so long, I got to see you soon, you're the best, this, and that. That's all I love you. She ain't got to say it. You don't need to have the title of relationship to necessarily make these things be effective. And let me tell you something else, guys. This is something you probably haven't thought about, okay? When you are dating, real talk, until you get to the phase where you guys are either engaged or actually married, it's all just dating. So even if you decide to throw a title in there, okay, fine, well, you'll be the boy, I'll be the boyfriend, you be the girlfriend, or you'll be my boo or whatever. It's all still just dating. And I think a lot of guys, again, get hooked up on the whole thing about having to have a title. But until there's a ring involved, honestly, it's just dating. So whether you guys make it a serious commitment with some kind of title, whatever, it's not serious until there's a ring. So unless she's coming to you basically saying, hey, so I want to be with you a long time, and, I think we should make this more serious, maybe, get engaged or whatever, then it's all just dating. And if she's consistently saying yes to your dates and making time to see you, you're good. I guess I'm at the age now where just like those kind of titles don't necessarily matter to me in terms of like me determining the seriousness of whatever I'm in with the person. But this guy's good. All the worries he has are just in his head about like, oh my God, this got to be a thing. And what if I fall this and that? You guys are already there. She's already telling you that she loves you just in different ways. So I don't see what the problem is really, but continuing on, some people say that it is not worth it because it may never develop into a serious thing. Other people say we should keep dating and see where it goes. Others say that she eventually may fall in love with me. I really don't know what to do because this woman drives me crazy and I never had something so amazing with anyone before. So I don't want to stop it now, but I also don't want to fall for someone who might not be ready for that if that ever happens. Her plans for this year were to go to therapy, read books, do yoga, and recover emotionally. No dating included until we met. Okay, so let's say this. She said she didn't want to date, and now she's dating you. So clearly what that means is she didn't want to date unless the right guy came along, which would then give me an excuse to break this silly rule that I made for myself to not date. So she's already broken that rule, and she's not trying to get into something serious, but she's doing stuff with you that indicates seriousness, whether it's trying to see you all the time, whether it's saying really, really nice stuff about you, etc. Then there may come a point where she decides, you know what, I want to give this thing a title. But you got to let her lead the way on that tip. So it seems like this guy's doing the right stuff. He's seen her once or twice a week. He's taking her out and hanging out with her when they can. I don't know how that's happening with pandemic right now. So this was written earlier in the year, so I don't know what's happening now with that. But the point is this. Don't feel pressured to have to push this thing into something that has a title to it. As far as I know, you guys are already technically there. It just might be for whatever reason in her last relationship, she's afraid of titles. Fine. Don't give it a title. You're just dating anyway. But it seems like she's saying these things and doing these things that indicate that there's going to be a point inevitably where that happens. Now, it could take some time. I had friends that are now married that were friends in high school, and they were friends for like a year and a half, and my friend who was the girl, because I knew her first, she wanted to get with him, but she just wasn't sure. She was like, I'm not sure if I want to be the thing. I'm just kind of getting to know him. It took like a year and a half before she was finally like, we should go out. So, and now they're married and have a kid. So I say this to say that, don't think just because you've been dating for a couple of months that you got to rush this thing right away. Some girls take time. Now, if you're a guy that wants to be in a relationship within a span of like 3 or 4 months, then this might not be the situation for you. But this girl is treating this guy better than other women out there who could have been dating him for 6 or 7 months and are just kind of like keeping him by the wayside. So my advice would be don't change anything. You're doing everything right, apparently, because she's clearly over-complimenting you to the point where she's probably going to be on the verge of wanting you something serious at some point. Now, if you want to help this thing get into a relationship a little bit quicker, like I said, because there's no title, I've done this before where I had a girl that I dated and I was trying to get back with her, and we were just kind of hanging out and doing whatever, but we weren't really calling it anything. And I remember one day I said, you know what? We're not boyfriend and girl, not to her, but I said to myself, we're not boyfriend and girlfriend. Let me just try some stuff. So I went on a dating site. No, not a dating site. I met a girl the previous year doing a marathon. And so I called her up and asked her if she wanted to go on a date to a comedy show. So then earlier in the day, this other girl who I'd previously dated before, she hits me up and is like, hey, we should hang out and do something tonight. And my response was, oh, well, you know what? I've already got plans tonight, so I can't. But some other time. And she was like, oh, okay. And then I went on my date. 2 weeks later, we become boyfriend and girlfriend, and we hooked up, and she was like, yeah, like, I thought I just wanted to be your friend or at the time, but then when you said you were going out with this other, well, you said you had plans, so I don't know if you were going out with another girl or not, but I was just kind of like, it started to bug me, and I didn't know why, and I thought maybe it's because I really care about him and want him to be my boyfriend, and that's when we hooked up. So as the guy in the situation that may potentially want a relationship, if it's for you not coming fast enough, it's as simple as putting indicators out there that there are other people that may want your company on a romantic level. And if she's not there yet to where she doesn't want to claim this as a title thing, that's fine. But just know you risk losing me to other entities that may want this thing that I now also want. And so that's a situation where you're not applying direct pressure to her to make a decision, but you are saying that if a decision about that is not made, then I have other options. Do you want to risk me going to those other options? And a lot of times for women, they won't want to risk that happening. So they'll really dig deep into themselves and they'll heighten their interest level in you to where they want to actually see you. And that's all without you having to say to them directly, well, you got to choose between me because if you don't, I'm going to find somebody else. That's not how you do that. You simply just lay out things like, hey, you just one weekend, for this guy to say like one weekend, she says, hey, we should hang out this weekend, blah, blah, blah. And he could just say, oh, I'd love to see you on Saturday, but you know what? I've already made plans to do something else. But hey, maybe Sunday's good. She'll be like, okay, cool. And then Sunday, she'll probably be like, so what were the plans that you had Saturday? Blah, blah, this and that. Was it with somebody else, this and that? Why are you so interested about that? Well, just because, we've been seeing each other and I just want to make sure of what? I mean, we're not technically boyfriend and girlfriend, so why do you want to know this? Why is it so important to you? And that could lead to a conversation to where she ultimately is the one that proposes them being in a relationship. How simple is that? You didn't pressure, you didn't act all needy or beggy, but you still got what you wanted. And that's what I encourage you guys to do, is that you never want to pressure somebody into something because it's going to be bad for you in the long run, especially if they're not ready for it. But you can always do things that are going to allow you to get what you want in a way that says to them, no pressure. I'm not tied to any particular outcome, but just know that this is the outcome that I want over here. And I have other ways of getting that if it's not you, without saying it just like that. So hopefully that helps you guys out there that are possibly going through the same situation. For more of these shows, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. You can also go to iTunes, leave a 5-star rating, and go to YouTube as well. Subscribe to this channel. You can also go to the website we have various eBooks there. I have a book on how to get back your ex-girlfriend. I got a book on what not to do during dating. And I also have a free video training that'll teach you guys, if you're interested in doing online dating or phone app dating, it'll teach you guys the kind of messages to send that will actually get women to respond and be more attracted to you. All right. If you want to support this show, there's a few ways you can do it. You can go to the website, click on the tip jar tab, and click on any one of those links to support. Also, if you want to get access to these shows a week in advance before anybody else, you can become a patron by going to patreon.com/introvertdatingsuccess and signing up for that. And of course, if you want some one-on-one coaching, click on the coaching tab at the website. If you want to send a message that you'd like answered on this show, you can click on the contact tab at the website. That's all I got. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I will catch you all on the next show. We have a new show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so be sure to check back for more of these shows. I'm out. Peace.